Okay, this is a continuation of our podcast on animal diversity. So we've introduced the concept of the diversity within the animal group and talked about the characteristics that distinguish animals from other organisms. And now we've started going into the major groups of animals. We've covered the cnidarians, we covered the sponges, the porifera, and we've covered the flatworms in the phylum Platyhelminthes. So we're going to pick up, still dealing with invertebrates, and the next group of invertebrates are the roundworms. Roundworms are in the phylum Nematoda, and the nematodes are roundworms distinguished by their round structure. So their body form is completely round. Flatworms have a flattened body form. Roundworms have a round body form. They're found in salt, fresh water. There are some that are parasitic, found on other animals, and on land. These are very numerous creatures found pretty much everywhere. You can go dig up some dirt, and there's probably going to be nematodes in it. Scoop a little water from a ditch or from a pond or something, it's probably going to have nematodes in it. They are very common. Um, and they do have a digestive tract, a two-opening digestive tract, and they have no circulatory system, and they exhibit sexual reproduction. So that's some of the characteristics of the nematodes, roundworms. Okay, the next group we're going to look at is the phylum Mollusca, the mollusks, and they are diverse. They are a diverse group. They're found in most habitats, salt, freshwater, and land. And there's a lot of different types of characteristics we see in the mollusks. Let's see here. Let me get to those. Okay, well, before looking at the different types, we're going to look at the basic body plan. And we see a similar body plan in all of the mollusks, but there's some variation. We'll look at that. And the body plan is that they have what's called a visceral mass. That's their main body, and they also have a foot, which is a structure that comes off of the visceral mass. Now, the visceral mass will have a mantle that will sometimes secrete a shell. So some mollusks have shells, not all mollusks. This shows an insert here of the mouth of a snail, which is a particular type of mollusk in the class Gastropoda. But you see an insert of its mouth, and it has a unique structure in its mouth called a radula that it uses to kind of chomp up its food. So that's unique to the mollusks. So as I mentioned, the snail here is in the group called Gastropoda. Now, in some of these phyla, we're going to look at the next category down. If there is a lot of diversity in it, we'll look at the next category down, and that is the class. So the classes of the mollusks, there's really four major classes, and some categorize it as three. And this shows the major classes in their outline. I just give three because chitin, right here, Polyplacophora, is sometimes grouped in with another class. But here's a chitin right here. Let me get to that. Chitin, these are small mollusks that have a hardened shell. They move around with their foot, and they do not have a head. But the rest are listed there. The gastropods are your snails and slugs. The bivalves are those that have two hinged shells, bi referring to two, bivalvia. Clams, mussels, scallops, and oysters. And then the last one there, the cephalopods. These include some different the things we have: squid, octopus, cuttlefish, and some of these do not have a shell. Let's look at here's some of the examples of the cephalopods there. But that's the major classes of the mollusks. All right, so we have the next phyla that we look at is another phyla of worms. So we have a total of 3 phyla of worms that we're looking at here: flatworms, roundworms, and then we have our segmented worms. Segmented worms are those that have distinct segments that run down the worm. Here's an example. A leech is an example of a segmented worm. So you can see right here, you can see these lines that run down. Another example is an earthworm. So when you think about an earthworm, you can see these distinct segments. It's not smooth, in other words. So you can see that real clear right down through here. These lines that go across are segments, or divide the animal up into segments. So we call these segmented worms. The phylum name is Annelida. These are found salt, freshwater, and on land, have a digestive tract, a 2-opening system, and they do have a circulatory system. They have a closed system. One specific group of these we list in that line are the polychaetes. Polychaetes are very diverse in the ocean, and don't have a slide of those, but the polychaetes are the largest group of the annelids. Okay, the next group is very large, and that is our arthropods. Arthropods are the largest phyla of animals. There is a lot that fall into the arthropods. Your book says 2 out of every 3 known species that exist on Earth are arthropods, found basically just about everywhere. We even see these way back in fossil records. Here we see a fossil of an arthropod back from the Cambrian explosion. We mentioned that in an earlier podcast. Lots of arthropods in the Cambrian explosion. So in the arthropods, there's some distinct characteristics we can see on this arthropod here. There's a head, a thorax, and abdominal segments. So all arthropods exhibit that at some level. So they have this segmented body, and also jointed appendages are common. Now, we're going to look at the major groups of these arthropods since they are very large. And so under the phylum Arthropoda, we have certain classes. And let's see, find the slide. Oh, here's some horseshoe crabs. These are very interesting arthropods here. Fossil record shows them as well way back in the fossil record, but these are a type of arthropod called chelicerate is the group that this belongs in. The chelicerates are the horseshoe crabs. Also in the chelicerate group are the arachnids. Spiders and scorpions and things fall into the chelicerates as well. The next group of arthropods we have are the millipedes and centipedes. These are Chilopoda, and the centipede here is a Chilopoda. Here's a chilipod, and the diplopods are the millipedes. So millipedes and centipedes are Diplopoda and Chilopoda. Insects are the next group of arthropods we look at. Largest group of arthropods are the insects, and they are very diverse. Since the insects are so diverse, we mentioned the different categories under the insects. So we've gone from phylum Animalia to the kingdom Animalia, to the phylum Arthropoda, to the class Insecta, Now, under the insects, since they are so diverse, we're going to list the groups of insects, and that is orders. So under the class division are the orders division. And so here shows some of the major orders of insects, and we list those out here. We list them in your outline as well. We have the Orthoptera, includes the crickets, grasshoppers. We have the Odonata. Odonates include the dragonflies. We have the Hemiptera. Those are a group of true bugs. A number of different types of bugs fall into the Hemiptera group. Coleoptera are the beetles, largest group right here. I think, can't read that. It should be about 400,000 to 500,000 different species of beetles is how many? Lepidoptera, moths and butterflies, Lepidoptera there. And Diptera are the flies. Diptera are the flies. And then the last one we mentioned is Hymenoptera. Hymenoptera includes the ants, bees, and wasps. So we list out, these are really the major groups, major orders of insects. Your book does mention a few others, but if you're just familiar with the major groups that we list there. Another thing we see I didn't mention the crustaceans. Crustaceans are another class of arthropods. These include the crabs, lobsters, crayfish, shrimps, all fall into the crustaceans. And crustaceans have a branching appearance. They have specialized feeding structures and movements. And for movements, so there's some different types of crustaceans, but that is it is a very large group of arthropods. Okay, and we have two more phyla, and we are gonna pick that up, and we're gonna have to continue that in our next podcast of our animal phyla, looking at animal phyla. So we have the echinoderms, and then we have the chordates, which the chordates include our vertebrates. So it's a diverse group. So two more to go, and we'll pick that up in the next podcast.